everyone. Welcome back to another Sub-CLE. Today, kind of cool. I always enjoy talking to drummers. I love the rhythm. I love drums. I wish I could play drums a lot better, but this is a drummer who plays currently in Ringworm and Iron Bitch. Mm-hmm. Iron Bitch. We have Grady here. Grady, thanks for stopping by.
Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
All right. So I guess first I want to hear about Iron Bitch. I usually go into like, you know, how'd you get started with drums? But I think we're gonna get there. But I really want to hear this Iron Bitch thing because I just love the name. Yeah.
It's a trad metal band. We have a female vocalist. She sings. I'm in a blues rock band called The Breaks. That's the band that I live with. We all have a house together, and we all grew up. We all went to high school together and partied and stuff together, and we've all been into metal and shit. And we talked about doing something with metal for like a really, really, really long time, but nothing really kind of kicked us in the butt. But what happened is on the last Shotgun Bowl, Olathia's festival.
Hey, right there.
Yeah. Olathe.
Yeah.
But I filled in with them on that, and Chris was like, "Hey, why don't you can have the Breaks do something on because they do a compilation CD or whatever."
Okay.
So I talked to Zeke and Hannah about it. We wrote a song, and it ended up being pretty cool. So we're like, well, we could probably turn this into a project. And then we're really good friends with Dylan from Assault. He also plays in Mutilation Barbecue. So we asked him to record it. He has a recording studio at a place called the Milk Factory off of State. And he records everything himself, and he played on it too. And then Ed Stevens. He's the best bass player in the city.
We all know Ed Stevens.
We all know Ed Stevens.
And Ed, if you're watching this, come on, you're gonna be sitting there. So.
Come on, Ed. It's super fun. But Ed was game. We recorded the song, turned out really good. We have it released. It's called Luminous Visions. It's anywhere you stream music. And then after that, we just enjoyed writing it so much that we just kept writing some songs. So we got an EP that is almost done being tracked right now. And then that will be released hopefully sometime late summer. So we got a couple shows coming up. June 20th at the Maple Grove with Alathea, and then June 24th with Savage Master. So
you're pretty close to the Maple Grove right now.
Yeah, right down the street. Yeah. I played there one time. I filled in with Assault. I played with Assault there. Yeah. I can't remember who we played. Vindicator. We played with Vindicator. It was a good show. It's a good venue, good sound. So
Maple Grove was awesome.
Yeah.
So what's the music sound like? I mean, I'm interested because you said you don't normally do metal, but you're like, hey, let's get together. You know, it's like if a bunch of like country music people were to get together and say, you know, let's try playing metal, I guess, you know, or any kind of music, you know. What?
Well, yeah, like I said, me, Zeke, and Hannah have loved metal. Mainly Black Sabbath is like our favorite band. Not to speak for them, they're my favorite band, but they love Black Sabbath and Judas Priest. So it's kind of along the vein of like Solo Dio, Judas Priest, and then we thrash a little bit. You know what I mean? Like there's definitely some elements of some like Testament in there. There's weird Voivod stuff, like weird Voivod chords and shit in there too. So it's kind of like an amalgamation of all of that. So
it sounds like I'm going to love it.
Yeah, I love it. Seriously. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I'm very critical about the music that I write with other people, and this, like, I listen to the demos and stuff all the time just because I like it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Hannah, the vocalist, is fantastic. Like she sings a lot of like soul music, and you know, she's kind of getting in with the whole soul scene. She does blues really well, Janice, and then she can just go in and wail like Dio and
that's awesome.
And Rob Halford. You know what I mean? It's awesome.
Essentially, that's where they came from.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, so exactly.
It's really no different.
Yeah, I mean, if you listen to like the Kill the King isolated vocals, Dio's just doing like gospel runs the whole time. You know what I mean? On vocals, it's insane. Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool. So you mentioned a band that's near and dear to me, Testament. So what makes you say that? Like, because they had a lot of melody going on.
That's kind of why I say it, because they're, you know, even though, especially the first two records, so fast, but there's a lot of really awesome guitar melodies and dueling guitar things on there that are like super awesome. And then Zeke, our guitar player, the one who writes most of the stuff,
Skolnick,
loves Alex Skolnick. So that kind of creeps into his playing a little bit. So, and like I said, Iron Bitch, you know, Priest never really thrashes. They do sometimes, but there's a couple tracks. Yeah.
Guitar harmony.
But there's a couple tracks on the Iron Bitch EP that are really, really, really fast. Like the one sounds like, you know, the Legacy Testament riff or something. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's like it's cool. So we're drawing all these influences from a lot of things, and not even like consciously. Zeke's just like, this riff is cool, let's put this here, and then this riff will be cool to follow that, so let's just put that there. So,
well, yeah, the reason why Testament kind of stood out to me too is I remember when I first, you know, there was like at the time there was like Slayer and Megadeth, Metallica, and all that stuff, you know, Overkill. But it was like Testament, just kind of like the first album, Legacy. It was thrash, total thrash. I mean, Bay Area thrash, but it had like these really catchy melodies for sure, Alone in the Dark, you know, and you know, Over the Wall, you know, just these really cool like choruses, really catchy.
And they stick with you, you know what I mean? Like they're choruses that you'll sing in your head after, you know what I mean? Like, Testament is, in my opinion, they should have been the big four, I think, you know what I mean? They're totally like slept on in that account. I love Testament, and I got to see them when last time they were at the Agora. They played the first 2 records only, and it was unbelievably awesome. It was so good, and like they're so tight live. You know what I mean? It's not. But Alex Skolnick is fantastic, and then their new drummer Chris Dovas is incredible. You know what I mean? I've seen him with Gene Hoglan. I got to see him with Lombardo, and then I saw him with Chris Dovas. So like 3 world-class drummers they just had in a row. Like that just doesn't happen. You know what I mean?
That's cool.
Yeah, Testament's fantastic.
Okay, so all right, so now let's do the whole. Okay, because now I'm really curious. I should do this more, but I'm really curious as to like, what got you into drums? What happened?
Well, there was never a point where I don't remember liking music. Like, I guess from when I was a kid, my dad, he's like an old school heavy metal guy, like, and some of my first memories with music are being in his Ford Bronco. Like, he had an old piece of shit Ford Bronco that had a cassette player in it. And I just remember driving with him, and he'd cycle through like, he had Unleashed in the East by Judas Priest and a couple Whitesnake records and Black Sabbath. That's, again, I mentioned they're my favorite band of all time. And I remember like the first record that I actually fell in love with, it was the first Sabbath record. Still my favorite record of all time. But that's kind of like what got me into music initially was, you know, just liking all that music. Like, my dad said I knew the words for Paranoid when I was like 2 or something, you know what I mean? Which is crazy. But as far as drums go, it was Living After Midnight, that drum intro, which is so weird because it's not anything crazy. It's just a really catchy drum beat that people have played a million times. But my dad said that was one of my first favorite songs too. And I just still to this day, I love that drum intro so much because it's so simple. But that's what made me want to play drums. And then
so was your dad a musician?
Yeah, my dad's a guitar player.
Okay.
So what happened was I finally got my first drum set when I was 9. My dad convinced my mom to let me get my first drum set. She was not.
He had to convince her.
Yeah. She was like, he's going to play it 2 times and then be done with it. You don't get him. And he's like, no, I think he'll stick around with it.
I love your dad.
Yeah. My dad's, you know, he's the whole reason that I'm here and playing drums and stuff.
I wish my dad would have been, hey.
Yeah. But when I got my first drum set, my dad made me a deal the next day. I had some birthday money, so he took me to the record store and I bought Back in Black by AC/DC and then Tribute to Randy Rhoads by Ozzy Osbourne. And my dad goes, start with Back in Black first, learn this whole record, and then start with and then go to Tribute because that's harder. And he goes, if you can learn these 2 records back to back, I'll buy my guitar rig back and we can start jamming. So it was kind of like I'll get to be in a band with my dad. That sounds awesome.
That's cool.
So I like really busted ass to like try to learn these 2 songs or the 2 records. And I did. And from what I recall, I remember learning both of those records in like a month or something. Just like, as soon as I got the drums, I was never not on the drums. So my dad finally got his guitar rig back. And from the time I was like, 9 years old to about the time I moved out, me and my dad would jam for like 5 hours when he got home from work. And until I went to bed, I would come home, do my homework, play drums, and then my dad would come home and then we would jam and just playing like old, like, White Snake and
awesome.
Dokken and Rat tunes and shit. So, and then he would like, it was cool because he would learn hard songs just for me to learn hard songs. You know what I mean? Like he was like Satch Boogie by Joe Satriani. That's like, it's a really hard drum song. You know what I mean? But he's like, we should both learn this. No, it's ridiculously hard. But my dad was like, why don't we both learn this? I think it could benefit both of us. So we would do shit like that. You know what I mean? Just learn really hard songs. And
nice.
So that was good. And then I started.
Awesome.
Like I said.
So on a few, I just want to interrupt you for a second.
Good.
Super jealous of your childhood, first of all. And secondly, I'm bummed out I never had kids because I could have created someone to jam with.
Yeah, I know. That's like what my dad said. He was like, this is great. He's like, I haven't been in a band since high school and now we're jamming again. It's great. And I know my mom was opposed to like the drum set idea at first, but she's, she was also like super cool with because it's not quiet. So she would come in and watch us jam and shit. And, it was a very supportive household. I'm very grateful.
Awesome,
you know what I mean? Yeah. And then I met Zeke and I had a buddy to start come and jam with me and my dad. So my dad was super stoked about that because he could do like dueling guitar leads and stuff while somebody held rhythm down. So yeah, it was cool. I grew up in a house just kind of full of music, you know what I mean? All the time.
Sweet.
Yeah. So very fortunate.
Okay. So you said you got into like blues and stuff like that. So I'm guessing you were formally trained at some point.
Yeah. So I went to CSU for 2 years and I studied jazz under a guy named Bill Ransom who plays for a really great blues vocalist named Beth Hart. And I had loved Beth Hart all through high school. And I show up to my audition and he's like, I go on tour sometimes. And he told me that he toured with Beth Hart. I'm like, okay, I think I'm going to come to CSU. This is kind of a sign. So yeah, I did a couple years of lessons in high school with my assistant band director, Roger Lewis, who he played drums. So he would give me drum lessons every week. And then again, you went on to college to do the whole jazz thing. Like every aspiring musician seems to want to do when you go to college. Jazz, you got to learn jazz.
Right.
Yeah. And then I didn't graduate or anything. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of like really important lessons in learning jazz. And I really don't think that if I didn't dive into the world of like fusion and jazz and blues and all this stuff, that I would not even be half the drummer that I am right now. Cause it teaches you, not even things about drumming, but it's like how to work with a band as opposed to just playing your part, how to read other musicians and jam. It teaches you a lot about that. Teaches you a lot about how to play with emotion as opposed to just playing riffs and stuff. Cause that's all that improv stuff like blues and jazz. I like it so much because it's so emotional. You know what I mean? It's not just...
Well, it's an expressive thing.
Yeah.
I've said this many times on this podcast.
Yeah.
Expressive. It's therapy.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not saying metal's not. I mean, metal is definitely therapeutic, but, you know...
metal has a lot of elements of jazz in it.
Yeah, exactly.
On what kind of metal you're looking at.
Yeah. But, all that free improv stuff, it's just like, oh, I don't know what I'm going to play. It's just you and the band. And then you got to figure out what to do in that context. And, there's a lot of interesting ideas that spurred from that. And, I find now that Ringworm is a one guitar player band, it gives me and Ed more freedom to do things like that, where we're not locked on a grid with a rhythm guitar player. We get to kind of go off and add little inflections to Matt's solo. Like there's a couple times in Matt's solos where he does like a triplet or something, and I'm able to accent that with my cymbals, and then Ed'll do the same thing. So that's why, I think it just makes it a little bit more back and forth, you know what I mean? A little bit tighter because you're really listening and forced to listen to the people that you're playing with as opposed to just like playing the riff that you're hearing in your head. You know what I mean? And that's what's fun to me is just that free flow kind of on the seat of your pants, what's going to happen sort of deal. That's why I like playing that music.
Yeah. I mean, I think, for sure, playing music with people, it's it's a holy experience.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's nothing like it.
You're connecting on a non-physical realm,
Mm-hmm.
you know. I don't know. I don't want to sound too, ridiculous here, but I mean, there is definitely a connection
Mm-hmm.
that you're not. You could try to write like a song, by yourself, and you can get in a zone, and you can do it. And you could probably write an amazing song. But like if you're like sitting there just like free flowing jamming with somebody else or two other people or three other people, and you're adding a different dimension. Every time you add a different person, you know, and if you can all get lost in that together, I think that's a special thing. And I think that's a rare thing.
Yeah. And it's, you know, I heard a saying that math is the universal language or whatever, which like, yeah, that's true. But if you got, you know, some dude who plays some weird flute thing from China, some guy who plays bongos from India or something, and then a bassist from America, if they were competent in their instruments, you would be able to put them in a room together and they'd probably be able to jam and communicate through music, you know what I mean? And play with each other. Right. So that's point. That's communication. You know what I mean? To me, like you're expressing ideas through a medium. That's communication. So
for sure.
Yeah. Music to me is a universal language.
That's a great, I'm stealing that. Man.
Yeah. Steal it. I don't care. Yeah. It's on here. I said it first, but you can take it if you want to.
That is great. No, that's really cool. Yeah. I mean, that cements in the fact that, it's just, you know, whether it be music or just anything, when you're working in a team, you know, brainstorming, trying to, I guess you could say that about like teams, like football teams or, you know, or whatever. When you're just like in the zone together, you're all like working as one. Yeah.
And it's a beautiful thing because you can feel it too. You know what I mean? Like if you're on the same wavelength as somebody, I'm spiritual and I'm kind of a weirdo, but like I really fully believe that if you and
I think it's a shame that when you say you're spiritual, you also have to
preface that
you're a weirdo.
But I mean, I mean, it's true. It's like, you know, I've done so many sets where it's like effortless, you know what I mean? You're just in this wavelength, in this thing with whatever's happening. And you can tell there's something in your brain where you can tell that everybody's feeling it too. Right. And when it's like that, it's so effortless. You know what I mean? I've had that with Ringworm gigs, pretty much every band I play with, because I'm fortunate enough that I don't play with anybody terrible.
No, it doesn't sound like you're playing with slackers.
No, I'm fortunate enough that, you know, I've set myself up to only play with people that I really, really, really want to play with and really talented musicians. So that feeling, in my opinion, is like the best feeling in the world. And fortunately, I get that a lot because I've surrounded myself with some really amazing musicians that I get to play with.
Well, birds of a feather.
Yeah.
You know, flock together.
Yeah.
Oh boy. All right, man. Wow. All right. We're getting deep and philosophical over
You're welcome.
Sub-CLA. No, but this to me, it just seems like it should be more normalized. Mm-hmm. Like you prefaced it by saying you're a weirdo because you're spiritual. That shouldn't be the case.
No, I mean,
you know, there is, come on, we can all agree that there is something that exists on a conscious or subconscious or unconscious level. There is something there that we can't really quantify.
No.
And so I believe you're connecting with that in different ways. I mean, some people find it through religion.
Yeah.
You know, some people find it through meditation or whatever, or some people find it through sports. Some people find it through music, you know? And I think music, kind of gets closer to it just because it deals with like frequencies and waveforms.
Yeah.
Pretty much what physical, if you study physics, that's what reality is.
Yes. Yeah. And I don't quote me on this, but I thought I had read somewhere that listening to playing music is the only activity that like activates both sides of your brain at the same time or something like that. Sure. So that could have something to do with it too. You know what I mean? But yeah, there's definitely something about music that is inherently, I think, more, not subconscious is not the word, but definitely, more spiritual, I guess. You know what I mean? There's just something about it.
Yeah, I guess we're trying to define this, and I don't think anyone ever has.
Yeah,
but I mean, there's a connection to something. People that are in the zone, people that are great at what they do, they all. I mean, don't quote. Well, you can quote me, whatever. I don't care. Quote me. I think they realize that there is something deeper.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. The fact that you could listen to a really good song and it takes you somewhere else that you know what I mean? And it makes you feel certain things. You know what I mean? Like, I think that speaks volumes. That's not just like a individual thing. Everybody can experience that. You know what I mean? With music. So yeah, there's just something about music that is like inherently super, super spiritual. I mean, since the birth of humans and once we figured out how to make drums, people have been playing music and singing along to it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like,
getting in that rhythm.
The fact that birds sing could be another, you know what I mean? Like, that doesn't just happen. I don't think, you know what I mean? Birds have songs.
Right. No, but I'm thinking about it. Even in language, you can get really deep into language or art, visually. But I guess that's going into the mind, the depths of, when you can kind of portray something in a visual way that isn't, you can't use words, you can't use, I mean, I don't know. There's a realm that's deeper. So let's get out of this and go right into Ringworm. How'd you get into Ringworm? What happened there?
It kind of just happened, I guess. I moved out to Cleveland with my band in 2020, and at that point I was still going to school for jazz, and I hadn't even played double bass in like 3 years since moving out to college or whatever. So I just ended up, I was playing with my band. I got into the scene, and then I started going to like jam nights at Smedley's, and that's where I met the bass player for Ringworm, Ed Stevens. And I didn't even know Ed was in Ringworm for like the first 4 months of knowing him.
You just thought he was in like all the 97 other bands?
Yeah. Like I thought he was, around town doing blues and jazz gigs and stuff like that. But yeah, I didn't even know Ed was in Ringworm. And I had been a fan of Ringworm since high school. Like, I've loved Ringworm since high school. Right. So when I found out that Ed was in Ringworm, I'm like, what the hell? You're in Ringworm? And he's like, yeah. So, a couple years go by after meeting Ed, and I go to the last show that it was Now That's Class before it turned to No Class. Ringworm headlined that. So I went to that show because I had never seen Ringworm before, and then I knew Ed was going to be there. I wanted to party with Ed. Yeah. And so I went to that show, and I was front row. I was right in front of Ed, headbanging, doing all that stuff or whatever. So, show's done. And then like literally like a couple days later, I'd gotten a text from Ed. And the text was, hey, Ringworm needs a drummer for a tour with All Out War, and then a tour with I Hate God and Venom Inc. Nice. Are you interested? I'm like, you didn't even have to put the "Are you interested" part. You could have just said, "Hey, do you want to play?" You know what I mean? So, sure. But unbeknownst to me, and I found this out later, Ed didn't consider me because I was just a blues kid playing blues or whatever. Sure. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't think of me to be the drummer for Ringworm, but I was up front air drumming because I knew all the songs and stuff, and Ed, because they knew at that point that Ryan was done. You know what I mean? So, Ed brought it up to Matt, and Matt was like, yeah, have him send me a video. So it was actually kind of a shit show getting my audition video in because I had booked a wedding gig that I had to learn like 50 songs for that day or that week. So that was like totally occupied, and I had to send the video in on Sunday. The gig was Saturday. So I go into my buddy's studio to record the drum parts or whatever on Sunday. and I hadn't even touched the double bass pedal that was my first time touching a double bass pedal for 4 years, but I knew I could do at least enough to get the gig, you know what I mean? So so I sent Matt the video, and then Matt lives like 1.4 miles away from my house or something. He's right down the road from me. So it was really nice because he could come over every week and help me kind of hone in on being a really good Ringworm drummer, you know what I mean? Right. And like tell me what I needed to do, what I needed to get better at. You know, Matt was super helpful in the whole process, mostly because he doesn't want his band to suck, which is understandable. Sure. So, but yeah, he came over, we jammed all the time. And then first tour was with All Out War. We did a week on the East Coast, and then went out with I Hate God after. And then they just kept having me back for tours and stuff. So
sweet.
Yeah.
That's cool. So, so now you're a metal drummer.
Yeah, somehow that happened. And now I'm like, 3 years ago, I was only doing blues and funk and rock session gigs, you know what I mean? Off if somebody needs a drummer. And now I'm doing like all these metal session gigs. Like I play with Tundra on a whim, Olathe I filled in with, Assault. Like I'm getting around, you know what I mean? It's cool to be in both scenes. It keeps things interesting for me. You know what I mean? I think if I could only because not that I was getting sick of playing the blues, but I was definitely wanting something to stir up my musical abilities, you know what I mean? And that's when Ringworm came in. So now it's nice. I get to bounce back and forth between the metal stuff and the blues and jazz and funk and rock stuff. So it keeps my life interesting, which I'm super happy about.
That's cool. Well, I mean, that's exactly, you're like the Ed Stevens of drums.
I wouldn't say that much. Ed is a legend, but it's nice to hear that, I guess. But yeah, Ed does, he does the blues and jazz and funk and stuff. And then he also does the metal stuff, you know what I mean? So, but yeah, it's cool. You know what I mean? Life has been very kind to me, I guess. So
the Iron Bitch stuff, you're playing soon?
Yeah. June 20th is our next gig.
Recording?
Yep. We're almost done tracking here. We have a 5-song EP coming out, hopefully by the end of the summer. Okay. So, we just got vocals and a couple more guitars to do on that. Yeah. And then I think we should be good on that. So that'll be good. Trying to book more shows for that, but we're still brand new. Our first show was in March, I believe, and then we have one single out. So everything's a process. So we're trying to get cracking on that. And then on top of that, 3 of that members of that band, me, the singer Hannah, and the guitar player Zeke, are also in a blues rock funk band called The Breaks, and we're also writing a record on top of that. So both of these bands collectively are writing records and all this music. So cool. Yeah, it's balancing everything. So The Breaks will be in the studio here shortly. Hopefully, we'll see.
How do you do the divide when you're working with this one thing? It's like, okay, we have to do and think of it in this way, and then you go to metal. And then it's natural. Yeah,
I think so. It's not eclectic. Like for us, it's not a really hard crossover. I don't think, at least for me, it's not, because The Breaks have been a band and we've been playing together for 7 years at this point. We just kind of know how that band operates, how that band writes, what that band's supposed to sound like. Right. And Iron Bitch is, what can we do that we want to do as far as metal goes, but we can't add, you know what I mean? Like, what can we make that's heavy that would be awesome for this? So it's like 2 totally different mindsets. So when you go
to the metal, does it, I don't want to talk shit about metal because that's like my favorite thing.
Yeah, no.
But, but do you kind of do it tongue in cheek?
No, there's a lot of work goes into the metal stuff. Like as much as the blues and funk stuff goes, you know what I mean? Like it's equally as hard to write, not because the riffs are harder or anything, but riffs are one thing, but to write a good song and to like structure things good, that's what's hard. You can come up with a million good riffs, but if you don't know how to piece the riffs together, then you know what I mean? Right, that's what's hard about both of those bands, is just trying to piece all these things together. And not that the metal is tongue in cheek or anything. If anything, it's like there's a lot of stuff that carries over from that blues band to like our guitar player Zeke he's a jazz guy too, so he does all these weird dissonant chords,
right?
And he uses them in one sort of context with the blues rock band, and then he can use those same chords in like a different context for the metal band. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of carryover. There's a lot of differences. But like I said, as far as like what mode, like if we need to be in metal mode, we can be in metal mode so easy. If we need to be in breaks mode, we can be in breaks mode so easily. You know what I mean? Just because it's so different.
Now, have you put out anything with breaks?
Yes. We have a full length that we put out in 2023, I believe, called Reasons to Stay. It's a full length. I already said that. And it's anywhere, Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube. And then we should be getting into the studio again here within the next month or so. I don't think we're going to do a full length, but we're going to put out maybe a single or two. So just we haven't put music out in a long time, and everybody's kind of chomping at the bit to play new songs and show new songs. So we'll be doing that here shortly. So
do you guys do videos? Or?
Yeah, we have one music video out, and then we have a live video out. So
okay. Mm-hmm. So what was the music video?
For the song Reasons to Stay. Okay. It was actually recorded for free by a guy named Brennan Haga. He did a really great job. He was trying to build up his portfolio. So he was like, oh, you guys want a music video? So we're like, yeah, sure. So it turned out really good. We're super happy with how that came out. So
nice. Now, he had the idea. You didn't like input anything into it or what?
No, we just kind of let him do his thing. I don't know shit about visual recording or anything, so I don't know what would make a shot look good or not, so I just let him do his thing.
Nice. Well, I don't know. You could have like a storyline or something. Or
no storyline. Yeah, we just let him do his thing. You know what I mean?
And what was it? Just like a live kind of thing?
Kind of like live, just playing in the basement of this church or whatever with some cool lights and stuff.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, nothing crazy.
That's cool.
Yeah, nothing like the Ringworm videos. The Ringworm videos, we had to go to like a set in this church, and then like those music videos, that was like really high production stuff.
Okay.
Like, yeah, it was cool. It was really fun to do, and they turned out really, 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 really sick.
So now who comes up with those videos?
I don't know. As far as like the video process, I don't know who does
so
that.
You just show up and you just
just do this.
Play, whatever.
Play along. They told me where to set up. I sat up. I sat up there, and then I mimed along to the drums. And if they needed me to do something, I did it. But yeah, nobody wants me to make creative decisions that don't have to do with music. I'm really terrible at that. So like, don't let me pick pictures to use on album covers and stuff. I'm really terrible at doing that. Don't let me pick the logo.
So why do you say that though? You obviously know it. You know, you can recognize something and say, "Oh wow, that's good."
Yeah. I'm not good at picking the good one though most of the time. Like I can tell if something's good, but sometimes I'll bring something to one of my bands, and they'll be like, that logo sucks, dude. What did you do? I'm like, I don't know.
But you think it's really good.
Yeah, at the time. But I'm very receptive if it sucks. If 5 people are telling me that something I think is cool sucks, then it probably sucks. Right. You know what I mean?
No, I gotcha. Oh boy. All right. So I don't know. I think we went through a lot of stuff. Mm-hmm. Is there anything else I'm missing about you?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
I know about your childhood, your upbringing, how you got into music. I know how you got into Ringworm. You met Ed Stevens, who pretty much, you're like 2 degrees away from anything ever. By knowing,
yeah,
and then
Ed's the man,
and then the Iron Bitch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean that's about it. The Breaks will have new music coming soon. Ringworm, we have some demos in the works. I have a couple songs.
Where do you guys play at?
Everywhere, pretty much. Mostly West Side. We play at the Grog Shop a lot. Winchester, we play Smedley's. We have a couple gigs there. We played the House of Blues restaurants. Okay. That band, that's kind of our money-making band, plus our like actual songwriting.
Right.
We do both.
You guys do covers and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, we have a 4-hour set, but we also play venue shows. Like we play the Coda a lot, where we do all original music. You know, that's for me, those are the fulfilling shows. The bar gigs are fun. I love doing the bar gigs because we like to jam, and it goes back to that free expression thing. Yeah. But that's my train of thought. Yeah. Oh, yeah. We do the bar gigs for money. You know what I mean? Just because you got to. And people come out to those, but people that go to those shows aren't there to just watch the music. They're there to drink and do that whole thing. You know what I mean?
So, you got to kind of play the good DJ, just play the room.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Know the room.
Yeah. And luckily that band knows enough songs that if we have to do, 10 Sabbath songs or something, we could probably do 10 Sabbath songs. Or if we need to do, a bunch of Erykah Badu and Michael Jackson, we could do a bunch of Erykah Badu and Michael Jackson. Perfect. So it keeps it interesting for us too, because we're not stuck playing the same thing over and over and over again. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I always thought it was kind of amazing that those the piano bar guys, they know
everything that you could ever want.
Nate on here one time. He worked at Big Bang. And that I mean, and if they don't know it, they just look it up real quick, and then I got it.
Just read the music. Yeah. I don't. Piano's a thing that I don't understand at all. I can kind of fake my way through Judas Priest songs on guitar and bass and stuff, but as far as piano goes, there's no way I can figure out how to get my hands to do that at all. Yeah, reading music you have to read 2 lines at once. It's crazy.
Yeah. So does anybody ever reference Sanford & Son when they talk to you?
All the time. Yeah. I get, I either tell them the baseball player, because the Indians used to have Grady Sizemore. Yeah. Or I tell them Sanford & Sons, because they're always Brady? No, Sanford & Son. And they go, Grady.
So that's what I wanted to ask. How... I'm guessing your father named you that.
Yes. It's actually really funny because my dad named me that with the intention that I was going to be a baseball player.
Oh, really? Oh, because Sizemore.
Yeah. Well, no, that was before Grady Sizemore was even an Indian. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Fun fact, I was at the first game Grady Sizemore ever hit a home run too, which is strange. Okay. Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
But my dad wanted to name me Grady because he thought I was going to be a baseball player, because he was a really good baseball player in high school, and he probably could have gone pro. That's a different story. But I ended up being a dorky music kid in high school, which, everything worked out. You know what I mean? It is what it is.
But why Grady?
I couldn't tell you.
But is that a baseball name?
He said it sounded like a baseball player name. Okay. So that's why he picked it. I don't know where he got the baseball player name thing from, but that's what happened. And my mom said it was between that or Cornelius, and she vetoed Cornelius super, super, super hard.
Cornelius would have been awesome.
No, I would have gotten bullied rigorously in high school. So my mom, I dodged a bullet on that one. So happy I'm not named Cornelius. Sorry if anybody's named Cornelius out there, but
I don't think anyone is.
No,
I don't think there's anyone ever that's going to watch this that's going to be called, their name is Cornelius. If you are, put it in the comments.
Yeah, put it in the comments so people can make fun of you for your name being Cornelius.
But no, I immediately think of Planet of the Apes, right?
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, obviously, there's, American revolutionary people over there.
Yeah.
But yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think this is a good spot to end.
Yeah. That's cool.
Unless you have something to say.
No. I mean, Ringworm's got a couple gigs. We're playing Akron and Columbus next week. Those Iron Bit shows are June 20th and 26th. And then the Breaks are playing April 26th at Dunlap's Corner. So you can find the social medias for all those bands.
Who's everywhere. All in Ringworm now?
Matt Sorg, James Bullock, Ed Stevens, and myself. So 4-piece now. We don't do the 2-guitar player thing anymore.
So I've had half the band on here.
Yes. Yeah, you had Matt on here, right?
Yeah. Matt was cool. He called me out because, you see how I gotta focus on things. He was saying something, and then I asked him something.
Yeah,
and then he was like, "Dude, I just told you that."
Matt Sorg.
I loved it, man. I loved it.
Yeah, great. Matt's great. Everybody loves Matt Sorg.
He's just so blunt.
Yeah.
He's not trying to be nice. You know?
That was great. Yeah, Matt's nice. I like Matt. Everybody likes Matt.
So, all right, man. Grady. I love it. I love it that I know somebody named Grady.
There you go. Thank you. Yeah.
And I don't know. Yeah. Iron Bitch. Check it out.
Yeah.
Ringworm. All that stuff. I'm sure everyone's checked out Ringworm that's going to watch.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
All right. Sub CLE. We are out. That's cool. That was fun.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. That was.
I didn't expect to get deep on the spiritual.